Mozambicans are really pushing to change their sanitation state. I went there to visit a program called Community-Led Total Sanitation. This is shortened to CLTS. And it's an extremely successful program which tries to encourage people to build latrines. You have to appeal to people's psychology. So one way of looking at this is to say that rather than concentrating just installing toilets and hoping that people will use them, you have to look at people's psychology and their emotions. It can't be about individuals or families or households. It has to be about the community. The animator, the person doing the triggering process, would gather people around. The animator would then say, okay, so who doesn't have a latrine in the village? And it's done with humour, which is very, very important. So you try and relax people, because some people might find it an embarrassing topic to talk about, but it's done very well. By the time people are relaxed, you start adding things up. Let's assume every person excretes 250 grams a day, and everyone's doing the calculation, and the numbers really add up. Someone will produce a very nice meal, and it was placed on the ground. This piece of newspaper was unfolded, and there was a bit of human feces, and everybody, of course, recoiled. And then the animator would say, well, can you see those flies? And the flies, of course, were going from the food to the excrement, back to the food. And the animator said, well, are those the same flies that you have in your house? And somehow that was the trigger. The penny dropped all around, and everyone said, yes, those are the same flies. So the idea was that with this trigger of just seeing something so shocking, realising just from seeing these flies going from the food to the excrement and back again, that they would suddenly realise that they are actually ingesting human faeces every day. And the idea then is that you seize the moment and you say, well, when are you going to build latrines? And generally people say, well, tomorrow. In Mozambique, the way the society is structured is that the village leader is very, very important. He's considered to be the mirror of the community, so whatever he does goes. If the village leader builds his latrine, it's up to him to persuade everyone else to build one. If the village is judged to be open defecation free, then the village leader, for example, will receive a bicycle, which is a great advantage with such terrible roads in these rural areas. Another very important part of the CLTS program in Mozambique is that hand washing with soap is also very encouraged. So you can have a latrine, but if you don't have hand washing with soap, you're not going to reduce disease as much as you would if you had both. I mean, the statistics are that having a latrine, you reduce disease by about 40%, and with hand washing with soap, it's about 80%. So it's fundamental. Pride is another emotion that's very, very important in CLTS. And fundamental to this sense of pride is the sort of sense of ownership in that it's all been do-it-yourself. And all the latrines have been built by villagers or local artisans, and it just seems to work. It seems to be cared for. People value what they do themselves. It's really heartening to see CLTS taking off like this. And I do think things have certainly improved, but sanitation is still horrifically neglected when you consider that the death toll from diarrhea is greater than that from HIV/AIDS and malaria globally. The one heartening thing is that there are still some very, very passionate people doing their best to change this.